One corner to go. Turn 14 at Road America, then up that rise. They cannot see the flag stand from this moment until they crest the rise, and we'll see if Jim Swintal gives them the green flag. They look good side by side. Andretti to the inside of the black car, then Brian Hurt to the green waves, and we're underway. Newly reconfigured right-hander coming up at turn 1, part of $1.7 million in safety improvements here at Road America.
Everybody squeezing through there in very good fashion the first lap. A little bit of locking up there.
Scott Pruitt problems. Allenzer Jr. goes around.
Carpentier gets up on top of them. They said that if you go in the gravel pit, your day is done. They are not going to try to get you out and onto the track. We'll see if they stick with that.
In a cloud of dust, it appears at least 2 races are over by the time they reach turn 3. On board with Gilles de Ferran.
Okay, they're going down the hill here. Gilles up there taps. Oh, he taps Scott Pruitt, turns him sideways. That started that chain reaction. Look at the back of your screen, right back in that area there. And then Allenzer Jr. gets hit right there by, that looked like either Jimmy Vasser or Alex Zanardi. Taps him up in the air. Carpentier has nowhere to go. Here we're on board with Alex Zanardi. Oh, and he hits Al Jr. big time. And what's amazing is Alex Zanardi gets away again. He has the strongest car in kart racing.
If you saw him go over the grass a week ago at Mid-Ohio, you know what we're talking about. Allenzer Jr. in the foreground just shaking his head. The same thing for Patrick Carpentier. Now joining us on our audio loop is Kurt Russell, Vice President of Competition for Kart. Kurt, Alex Zanardi comes into this competition under probation. We just saw him punt Allenzer Jr. out of the race. What can we deduce from what we just saw?
Anything that happens during the race, Bob, will be reviewed at the end of the race by the stewards.
All right, thank you, Kurt Russell, Vice President of Competition for Kart. Chief Steward Wally Dallenbach, a successful racing driver in his own day, will review the video, talk to the drivers, and we'll see if something comes for Alex Zanardi. The runaway points leader suddenly is bumping into things left, right, and center.
Oftentimes that can be the result of a chain reaction. That field can somewhat just jam up in front of you because of the incident out in front of them and have caused that incident with Alex Zanardi. It's very difficult when you're sitting that low in the car to see everything that's going on in front of you, especially when it's that congested down in that corner on the first lap.
We're not going to rush to judgment on Alex Zanardi. He will have his day in court, so to speak, with Wally Dallenbach and kart officials. It is just a local yellow as they remove those cars from the gravel trap. There is Christian Fittipaldi. Back in 1996, he was leading this race with 6 laps to go when he lost the engine. The next man in line took the lead. That was Allenzer Jr. He lost a motor on his last lap. Michael Andretti came through to pick up the victory. Off of the carousel. Here comes the kink.
Now see, at this stage of the game, full tanks, you could hear him lift through that corner. And look, he lost a little ground there to the guys in front of him.
Breaks for Canada corner. Let's go to the pit lane. Rick DeBrule.
Well, and a very frustrated Roger Penske. The weekend started off so strong, and now it's going to fall into pieces right here. Let's talk about what just happened.
It's a tough deal. Al said he just got run into the back. I saw it on the monitor. Zanardi just ran into him and knocked him up in the air, and there was nothing they could do. So I hope that the stewards take a look at that and take the appropriate action.
I was going to say, he's already had he's on probation. He's already had a fine. What do you think needs to be done now?
I couldn't hear that. The car's going by.
What needs to be done now with Zanardi?
I think you got to leave that up to the officials, but hopefully they'll take a good look at it and take the proper action.
And I think Roger Penske wants to see something done.
No surprise there as they work through turn 3. You can see some of the new concrete barriers added here at Road America. Working lap number 3 now. Helio Castroneves has pitted. Your watch. Brian Hurta. Here's Bobby Rahal defending his position from Gilles de Ferran down in turn 5.
Let's also not forget that Gilles de Ferran was one of the fastest cars all the way up until final qualifying. Had some problems. Gary?
With Chip Ganassi. Chip, did you have a chance to see a monitor? We just heard from Roger Penske, and he is accusing your driver Zanardi of creating that incident.
Well, I don't know if my driver created it. I think it was Alex came on, he said, look, everybody in front of me was locked up on the brakes, and so was he locked up on the brakes. Simple as that. I think it was a racing accident.
Do you feel like you're under a microscope because of the penalties from a week ago?
Well, I think there's been enough discussion about penalties the last couple of weeks, and I'll let the fans decide that.
Okay, that's the feeling here from the Ganassi pit.
Alex Zanardi has moved up to 7th place as you ride with Gilles de Ferran in 4th. Ahead of him, Michael Andretti, Brian Herta, and Bobby Rahal. Behind him, Dario Franchitti, Christian Fittipaldi, Alex Zanardi, Greg Moore, Tony Kanaan, the Rookie of the Year points leader, and Adrian Fernandez, our winner a week ago at Mid-Ohio, running 10th. There is Michael, who is drawing away from the rest of this field. Up the hill, under the Texaco Bridge, and across the start-finish line. Look at that gap.
That's not drawing away. That's checking out, and that's going for the $315,000 that is at stake if he wins from pole position.
5.5 seconds the gap as Zanardi and Greg Moore work for the position. Moore demotes Zanardi to 8th. We'll take a break and return with more of the Texaco Havoline 200. Stay with us.
Back at Road America on board with Alex Zanardi, and he was involved in that chain reaction accident. Chip Ganassi doesn't want to hear any more about penalties. He said, that's just a racing incident. I know whenever I'm on the dishing end of a little contact, I like to say the same thing, but that's kind of like the racing equivalent of saying it's a dry heat. Well, if it's 130 degrees, it's still hot. If you're in an accident and you're doing the hitting, it's hard to always explain it away as racing. That was a bit of a chain reaction. Gilles got into the back of Scott Pruitt, but Alex Jr. had enough time to check up, and Alex, to be quite honest, wasn't even close.
Well, I think Alex is paying the price right now. He's getting passed quite regularly. He's just been passed by Greg Moore, then he got passed by Fernandez. I've seen him do a big lockup of his tires. He's obviously flat spot him. He's probably got some handling problems in that car. He's about to get passed right here as well. His teammates taking a look inside. Paul Tracy in the green and white car is right behind him.
Al Unser Jr. has made his way back. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Al, can you tell us about the situation?
Well, I don't know anything. I got drilled from behind really hard. Somebody used me for brakes in the corner. It sent my back end up flying, and then I was in just a bunch of dirt from there on, and then Patrick came and hit my front end, and you know, that was enough damage to put us out.
How much of this did you anticipate, or were you concerned about starting in that 5th row kind of mid-pack?
I was concerned about it, but you know, with the recent stuff going on in the starts of the races, you know, I figured the guys have got to listen to Wally sometime or another, and lo and behold, they don't listen at all.
All right, that's Al Unser Jr. He's on the way back to his pits, and clearly a lot of disappointment. Boy.
What Al Unser Jr. is referring to listening to Wally was the drivers' meeting, which the chief steward talks about such things as etiquette on the racetrack. You see attempted passes going on out there. The order is currently Andretti, Herta, Rahal, de Ferran, Franchitti, Christian Fittipaldi up to 6th, Greg Moore now 7th, Tony Kanaan 8th, Adrian Fernandez 9th, Scott Pruitt and Jimmy Vasser have gotten around Alex Zanardi, as we saw earlier. The points leader runs in 12th, followed by Paul Tracy, J.J. Leto, Richie Hearn, Max Pappas, and Robbie Gordon. Andre Ribeiro is 18th, driving with that cracked leg. As you see Tracy go by Zanardi, dropping the points leader back into 13th place now. Mauricio Gugelmin runs 19th, Walter Salas 20th. Michel Jourdain Jr., the fastest man in the warm-up, is in 21st spot. He's moving up a little bit. Alex Barron 22nd, Mark Blundell 23rd. Mark Meyer is 24th, P.J. Jones 25th. Helio Castroneves, along with Al Unser Jr. and Patrick Carpentier, is out of the race. There is Paul Tracy. You see the numbers on his previous laps across the bottom of your screen, the running order with gaps to the leader in time. Let's go to Rick DeBrule.
Well, standing by with Helio Castroneves out of the race already. Let's talk about what happened to start with.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the broke header, they broke the header and the connect in the gearbox, and unfortunately, I mean, it was so early in the beginning. We had not even 2 laps, I mean, almost, and it started getting smoke in my car, and the pit was saying, "No, you're running okay, the computer's okay." I said, "Yeah, but it's a lot of smoke here inside the cockpit." "No, keep going, until the moment that definitely was a broke.
In this case, the driver is definitely right. We want to talk about the racing action on the track. We already had some incidents. From your standpoint, where you were at, did it seem like everybody was racing fairly, or were some people jumping the gun?
Everybody on the first turn really everybody behaved yourself. And on the second turn, I think one of the cars brake outside of the track and started spinning, and the other one started braking. I mean, it was a big pack over there. The track is really good. I mean, the track is clean. And
was it just racing action, or were people taking risks?
I think people trying to get position, but I mean, I know it's so crowd over there, so it's gonna be okay for next race.
Helio Castroneves out of the race.
And he remains in good spirits. He trails his former PPG Dayton Indy Lights teammate Tony Kanaan, who currently runs in 8th place, by 13 points for the Jim Truman Rookie of the Year trophy. Looks like Helio Castroneves will gain no ground, might lose a bit more today. Through the carousel, long, unending right-hander. And there is Michael Andretti. Last time by, he was shown nearly 8 seconds clear of the field, but that was more than 3.5 miles ago. Look at the real estate he has opened up.
I've been in the same situation at the same track with Michael Andretti. I was leading by about 12 seconds, and the team said, "You cannot continue at that pace. You're burning up too much fuel. You have to back off." Michael then caught me, passed me, went in the lead, and I kept saying, "How's he doing that?" And eventually, with a lap to go, I caught Michael again and passed him for the win. This is a very tough track when it comes to fuel. There's a lot of strategy going on right now. I'm not so sure some of these guys aren't conserving fuel.
Let's hear from the only other driver out of the race right now, Gary Gerald.
Patrick Carpentier, you had a big hit there. Are you all right physically?
Yeah, I couldn't see where Unser was. Somebody spun him around at first, and then I came with 2 cars, and then Paul Tracy moved me to into the grass, and there was no way I could stop, and I just hit Unser afterward. It was a pretty big hit, but we're okay.
This first lap, it seems like almost every week now, recurring incidents. How concerned as a driver are you about this trend?
It's a shame, you know. I think we had a great car this morning, and I thought we were going to do good. Same for Unser, and the guys are really aggressive on the first lap, but we're all aggressive, you know. It's basically on yellows and first laps is the place we can pass some cars, and it's getting tight, and competition is tough, and everybody's trying to gain a position.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You saw a quick and unscheduled pit stop for Alex Zanardi for some tires.
I think he'd obviously, that flat spotting that he had done earlier cost him. He was getting too much vibration. High-speed circuit like here, it's very difficult to drive like that with the handling situation. Also saw him make a quick adjustment on his left front wing.
The battles for second, third, and fourth going on. Meanwhile, up the road, Michael Andretti, his last lap, 1 minute 44.658 seconds. No one else is under 1:45. Compare that with Michael's pole-winning record qualifying time of 1:39.988. And as you can tell, he is flying. Back down to the pits.
I want to talk about a flat spot. This is a flat spot with a vengeance. You can see right across here. This is Zanardi's tire. They just pulled off the car. Literally gone down to the cords underneath. This does intriguing things. He's come in, he's made his pit stop. They fueled him up, and they've sent him back out now. So should the shuffling change in terms of this race, in terms of pit strategy, that may actually turn to his advantage somewhere down the line. Not likely, but this was the result. That's what happened as a result of that contact early.
Andre Ribeiro is parked on the racetrack between the carousel and the kink, a very fast part of the circuit. What a weekend for the Brazilian in his first season with Penske Racing, trying to develop the new Penske chassis with the Mercedes engine and Goodyear tires. A crack to his left leg in Friday qualifying, no qualifying Saturday, and now he finds himself parked. We'll take a break.
Clear an exit. Do you need any changes to the car? A clear pit on exit. Go around Donnie. Set the fuel meter, Marco. We'll set the fuel meter. Hey, go, 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 go!
Welcome back to Road America and the Texaco Havoline 200. Bob Varsha, Danny Sullivan, Tommy Kendall, Rick DeBrule, and Gary Gerald with you. And there you see the cars that remained on the racetrack when race leader Michael Andretti and a host of others dove for the pit lane. Brian Herta, Bobby Rahal, Greg Moore, J.J. Leto making a big move for track position for Carl Hogan, and Walter Salas through turn 5. Huge crowd on hand this weekend at Road America. Annually, this is the single biggest sporting event in terms of spectators in the state of Wisconsin. And considering that the Green Bay Packers play just up the road, that is saying something. Now let's get an update on the pit stop situation, beginning with Rick DeBrule.
Well, so much for the best laid plans of mice and men. As Danny alluded to earlier in the broadcast, a lot of people were planning on making this a 2-stop race. First stop on 16 lap, second stop on the 33rd lap. Well, guess what? This yellow has changed that. As a result, everybody's come in, they've made their stop. Just talking with Jim McGee, that is the team manager for Scott Pruitt and Adrian Fernandez. He said, well, that's the way things go. Just got to change plans every now and then. Gary?
Yes, indeed. 3-stop race for almost everybody at this point is assured. Let's quickly update the Andre Ribeiro situation. The crew reported that the car just shut itself off. In their words, said we have no other reason, we don't have a reason for that. As far as the leader, Michael Andretti, routine service, tires, fuel, back out, and that big lead is already shrunk down.
Well, Gary, bad day for Penske Racing. This is not exactly what they wanted to do. They started off the weekend so strong. The strategy situation, everybody had to stop. If the leader stops, second, third, fourth, everybody had to get on the same strategy. They will be hoping for a full course yellow a little later on so that they don't have to make a stop and go, a stop under green, and hopefully right at the end of the race, they can whip into the pits and do a real quick splash and be back out.
We're told that one of the teams told to stay out would be Greg Moore in the 99, the blue and white Players car. So he is going on the initial program of trying to make this a 2-stopper, hoping that he'll get another yellow opportunity and won't have to pit under green when his stop will be due in a handful of laps.
Gary, one other thing, these laps under yellow, he turns that fuel mixture down, saves a lot of fuel. He might have been able to slip it up to lap 17.
We expect to go green as Brian Herta leads Bobby Rahal. Rahal looks to make a move up the inside of his teammate for the lead. Clean pass as they break for turn 1.
little bit of that is a result of, if you notice, Brian Herta went quite a bit later than most of the restarts here. A lot of the restarts happened in the neighborhood of the bridge. Herta waited until just going into the final corner, didn't have any gap on Rahal, and as you can see, he's coming under pressure right now from Greg Moore. But Rahal, both the Rahal cars are running very low drag setups. Obviously, that did not help him against Brian because they're very, very similar.
Look at Brian!
Unbelievable!
Brian goes in so deep, Tommy, right there in front of you, almost took out his boss.
I think he was paying attention to going in deep to keep Greg Moore behind him, and just got it. You could tell he was in trouble early.
Oh, look at this!
Oh my goodness!
Alex Barron right up on top of poor Brian Herta.
You saw Herta pull his hands in and try to make himself small. An astonishing collision in turn 5.
Herta is moving in the cockpit. You can see his head moving, talking to the safety workers. I can't see much from my position, but you saw him. I was focused right on him. You saw his hands come up. I thought he was putting his head in his hands. He's definitely moving around inside.
And Tommy, on the radio,
is on top.
On the radio, we are told that he's talking to his crew, saying that he is okay.
Full course caution. Double yellow flags from the flag stand. Look at him underneath the new Eagle chassis for Dan Gurney's All-American Racers. Now let's watch from above.
Herta goes in deep to try to keep Moore behind him. Cannot get it stopped. Just barely tagged Rahal, sitting there.
Watch
Barron's
over
towards
here.
the back of the pack.
And you saw Alex Barron up against the wall in a grinding.
Did you see that? The safety worker was already attending to Brian Herta and saw that coming. I think a similar thing happened with Alex Barron. He came in down hot, had nowhere to go, and went to the outside, got in the grass before the turn. And Danny?
Also, remember, you got this roll bar up here at this point, and there's one down there in the front of the car underneath the dash, and that's acts where he can be protected. So just a situation like this, and of course the front of these cars are just so pointed, they're like a ramp, which is how Alex Barron got up on top of that car.
In slow motion, you could see Herta knew he was in for a big one. That's the Kart Safety Team Unit 2 down there. Dave Hollander, the crew chief, Dr. Terry Trammell, the noted orthopedic surgeon from Pittsboro, Indiana, Mike Carey, an EMT from Tempe, Arizona, and Pat Caserta, an EMT from Kennelon, New Jersey. There is Alex Barron. Now they have one of the more complex rescues in recent years.
Well, they can't just pull that car off, because if they do, some part of it could fall down and hit Brian, who at the moment is safe in his little cocoon there in the cockpit of that car.
It actually looks like they are going to just tug that thing off of there. They're hooking it up to the roll bar. There is not a crane in sight, so I'm not sure what's going to happen.
They got to be careful, because I'd hate to see that nose plop down and hit Brian in the head. Remember, that car right there weighs 1,560 pounds dry. They've only just done a pit stop, so again they'll have full load of fuel, add a couple of hundred more pounds to it.
Now you saw the tow truck backing in. I gather they will attempt to try to lift the car off.
At least lift it up enough to get Brian out of the car, and then take time and remove it at a different.
It's like trying to remove the lion tamer from the lion's mouth. Let's take one more look.
Brian goes in there. I'm thinking he's trying to protect himself from Greg Moore right out there. He just goes in too deep, realizes he's going too deep, tries to go down the inside, locks it up, see the smoke come out of the back tires, turns it. Oh, I don't want to hit my boss here. He will kill me if I take him out of there. Spins backwards down the track.
Now he sees Alex Barron coming.
And look at this official right there. Was he lucky that he looked up at the same time?
Alex Barron was grinding along the wall. The car was up against the concrete.
Alex Barron got off under braking. We couldn't see that on that overhead shot. There was one teeny view of it, but we couldn't see what happened. It looked like he had a similar situation, came upon a car that slowed earlier. He was already committed to his brake zone and chose to go into the right rather than hitting the car in front of him, got in the dirt, ended up going right up over Brian. Here comes Brian. This is a great sign. The crowd's going nuts. Listen to that.
Tommy, was Alex Barron locked up when he got there, or do you suspect maybe a brake problem?
Alex Barron was in the dirt grinding against the wall when he got here. I think a similar thing happened. He came upon somebody else I think, and took to the right rather than hitting the car in front of it. Might have been his teammate.
You saw the quick nod and the extending hand from Brian Herta telling Alex Barron, it's okay. I'm all right. You're all right.
One thing that compounded that with Bobby Rahal is one thing that compounded that is Brian was trying to hold off Greg Moore, but Bobby, having a nice little cushion, broke a little earlier. Cold tires, he didn't want to overshoot things, and at that point Brian had all this momentum. You can't just make that disappear. He did everything he could, started to go to the inside, but as you can see, he just barely, he's lucky he didn't hit Rahal harder. He definitely hit Rahal from behind. I had some information from the team meeting. The one thing they talked about, it's obvious, it's kind of understood, don't get into each other, but they were talking more about first turn, first lap.
Well, there you see the Team Rahal scooters there to pick up the driver of the Shell, Reynard. Brian Herta's race is done in one of the more bizarre accidents in recent memory. We'll be back to Road America. Here at Road America, we are back under a full course caution after a wild incident involving Brian Herta, who nearly took out his teammate, the race leader, Bobby Rahal. And when he spun to a stop, he found himself looking straight onto the nose of the brand new Eagle 987 chassis in the hands of Alex Barron, whose car rode right up over the top of Herta's stationary machine and stayed there. Now, there you see the running order. Greg Moore, Michael Andretti, and Walter Salas. Moore and Salas have yet to make their first pit stops. Everyone else has one. Through Canada corner they go. Now we expect a green flag shortly, so we'll take another quick break and return for the green here at Road America. Stand by for more of the Texaco Havoline 200.
Just so you're aware, it looks like Rahal's getting ready to top off.
Now, how about this pit strategy? Moore and Salas staying out there.
They're hoping with enough yellow, it's a straight two stop.
We need that pit statistic.
Rahal's going obviously for a one stop now.
Betting on a yellow green here is probably a pretty safe bet based on past history.
Moore is looking at a stop at 18 or 19.
Here comes Bobby for his top off.
Sorry?
Did he?
Yeah, he was bumped.
Okay.
And now he's back in 20th after his second stop. Back at Road America, our first story of the spotlight of the day features the strength of the current champ car. 1 week ago, this was Michael Andretti twisting and flipping through the gravel trap at Mid-Ohio. Miraculously, he climbed out and waved to the crowd. And then here at Road America, Brian Herta spins to a stop, and while the rest of the field makes its way by and safety crews start inching towards the car, Herta looks up, sees Alex Barron grinding along the wall and hitting him dead center. But he too climbed out completely unhurt.
Bob, these things are unbelievable. The amount of safety testing that they've done in the car, they're very good at going out when there's a crash and analyzing what took place in the car, seeing what the weak points were, and trying to make recommendations to improve on that for the future. CART is very conscientious in that area, and the accidents and the resulting walkaways that we've seen from the drivers proves that. Tommy?
One of the things you look when you saw that shot of Greg Moore sits a little higher in these cars. That's a measurement they look at. Brian Herta sits lower than most. They draw a line from the top of the roll hoop to the front structure where the raised nose kind of, and the driver's helmet has to be well below that plane, obviously if the car's skidding upside down, but that's exactly what helped Brian Herta. He sits low in that car and was well away from the damage.
Dummy, they actually put a bar from the rear roll bar to the front roll bar down there, and they have to be, I believe, don't hold me to this, but I think a 5-inch gap between the driver's helmet and that bar.
6th DNF of the year for Brian Herta. Greg Moore is now in the lead for the 10th time this year, but remember, he has yet to pit. You ride with Michael Andretti as Moore up ahead takes the green flag, and we're back underway. Lap 15 of 50. And Walter Salas looking around Michael Andretti, but Salas behind him is Dario Franchitti. Behind Franchitti is Gilles de Ferran. Then Adrian Fernandez, our winner a week ago at Mid-Ohio. Then Tony Kanaan, Scott Pruitt, Jimmy Vasser, Alex Zanardi, your top 10.
Great restart by Greg Moore. That was a little more like what we're accustomed to. You're catching the guy in second a little bit off guard. But Greg, they're given great latitude where they can restart these races. As long as they let the pace car get far enough in front, they can go. And he's built himself a 1-second lead just on that restart.
Remember one thing though, Tommy, he is on a light load of fuel, and Michael, although he's not full, he's close to it.
Walter Salas, driving for Peyton Coyne Racing, appears to be going backwards just a bit. There is the Brazilian back in the racing car for only the 3rd time this year, and he went 70 days between starts, subbing for Dennis Vitola this weekend. There is Adrian Fernandez, who has gone around Salas. Up front, Greg Moore is obviously banking on another yellow flag, and that's not a bad bet. The last 3 years, we have had 6 yellows, 5 yellows, and 6 yellows. Oh no, P.J. Jones is off in the other Gurney All-American Racers machine. This is a Reynard, not the Eagle. Untotaled yards of new gravel in those traps, and as you can see, the car goes in right up to the top of the tire sidewall. Let's go down to Rick DeBrule with Brian Herta.
I was just asking Brian Herta what happened. He said which part. Okay, let's start with the first part, then we'll work to the second part with Alex Barron. What happened that got you in trouble to start with?
Well, you know, I think my motor was going off. It was a little soft, and it just didn't seem to have any juice down the straight. Bobby got by me, and Greg had a run. So I tried to brake really late to keep Greg back, and I ended up touching Bobby and spun me around. I got stuck there, and I don't know what happened to cause Barron to go off, but he obviously did, and then I saw...
You actually saw it coming. We could see your head ducking down.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I could do at that point. I was a sitting duck, but, you know, I'm just really thankful, thank God, that, you know, the car went up instead of straight, and, you know, I guess that was my lucky day in a way.
It didn't hit you at all. It literally went right over the top.
It actually hit my hands, but, you know, not too bad, so, you know, it could have been a lot worse.
But you have to be so frustrated considering how well you'd qualified.
Yeah, I'm more pissed off than frustrated right now.
Simple answer.
Hair-raising experience for Brian Herta. Now there is Greg Moore. Not since 1991 has this race gone caution-free, and Moore would like to see one pretty shortly as he works lap 16.
And that red and yellow flag that you just got a flash of right in that corner is an oil or substance on the track warning flag. It's to alert the drivers what is out there. I think Greg Moore at this stage probably a little bit disappointed with his light fuel load that he's not pulling away. Although Michael Andretti's tires are fresher, Greg's got less fuel on board. And Michael looks like he wants to have a look down the inside.
Once again, Michael Andretti was the fastest car on the track last time by the start-finish line. Right now, though, the guy behind him, Dario Franchitti, also appears to be on the move as they climb through Thunder Alley under the Billy Mitchell Bridge and head for turn 14.
And of course, what we've seen with these different fuel strategies, everybody making pit stops at different times, we're virtually going to have to wait until the end of the race to determine whose strategy proves to be the best.
Something's happened to Moore's car. Look at Michael. He's just going to drive right by him. He must have, if I didn't know better, I'd say he lost a gear because he closed tremendously and just drove right on by. But you mentioned not having, yeah, it looks like there's a problem with Greg Moore's car because he's under fire from Franchitti as well.
Well, Franchitti's going to get by him, and he's got a problem. It'll be coming right down to you, Tommy.
It looked like, I mean, I guess if he had a trouble getting it in top gear, that would show up. And Michael is streaking away. You mentioned he must be disappointed carrying less weight. He also has less fuel to play with. He's held him off down here, but something is affecting his straight line speed.
Tommy, they think that he blew the pop-off valve, and it's now settling back down, and it takes a moment or two for it to recover. That's the quick word here from the crew.
These three have broken away. Moore, Andretti, and Franchitti. Gilles de Ferran runs fourth, then Adrian Fernandez, Walter Salas, Tony Kanaan, Scott Pruitt, Alex Zanardi, Paul Tracy, now 10th.
Where Michael has been blinding all weekend is through the carousel and through the kink, and the speculation in the Rahal camp is he was carrying more downforce, but he went blowing right by on the top end going into turn 1, so they just have that Swift hooked up very, very well.
Let's not forget one other thing. Look at the dust there. Somebody's put a wheel off and thrown the dirt out onto the track. Michael quickly cleans that up. But let's not forget one thing. Michael Andretti is on Goodyear tires. Those two cars on your screen there are on Firestones.
You know, there was a lot of discussion this weekend about that because there was some feeling that maybe the Goodyears were good enough to qualify fast, but they weren't going to be strong enough to be able to hold it. I can tell you, Gilles de Ferran's team has been saying they were able to run a series of fast laps. They're very confident that the Goodyear tires are going to hold for the race.
Well, Rick, to add to that, look who's tagged himself onto the back of that second-third battle, but Gilles de Ferran himself.
When de Ferran really has been fast throughout the whole course of the weekend. He was proving that not only was his car up to it, but the tires were up. Goodyear was really excited just looking at what de Ferran was able to do. In fact, a lot of folks were surprised that de Ferran didn't end up on the pole, but he spun during qualifying.
De Ferran's last lap, a 1:46.1, fastest of all the cars out there. The nearest to him, Michael Andretti, a 1:46.5. Now to turn 5, left-hand turn, and then climbing the hill. Adrian Fernandez right there at the bottom of your screen also wants a part of this fight.
And Michael Andretti wants him to keep fighting so he can streak away a little bit and be fairly conservative on his fuel.
When you hear these theories about the Goodyears being quick in qualifying but maybe not doing it in the race, those are always coming from the Firestone camp. And as a racer, you're always being your own psychologist, trying to keep yourself up. And if a guy's out running in qualifying, the first thing you say is, yeah, okay, his tires are softer, but we're going to be better in race trim. It's not bearing that out yet. Earlier this year, we were saying the same thing about Firestones, graining and so forth. End of the race, Alex Zanardi was in victory lane.
We have to point out that apparently Goodyear had a test here like 2.5 weeks ago. They turned around some tires very quickly from Mid-Ohio. Nobody liked them. Teams didn't like them. Goodyear didn't like them. They had come out with different tires, and you have to figure out how fast they're able to make those tires. They're much, much happier. They say that test just over 2 weeks ago was the key to how we're running this weekend.
Rick, the biggest problem for teams, though, is when the tire company, Goodyear or Firestone, goes away. Sorry, I'm going to break off that thought. Greg Moore going in the pits right now. Go through the chicane, designed to slow everybody down. Now he has to go down to 60. Gary?
We watch along with the crew as he's made it through the chicane and on the pit road. Has a wide open area to come in. But of course, he gambled. He stayed out. Now he's here for his first service, keeping in mind that he could make this a two-stop race. All of the other contenders are looking at 3. Every fuel in. Revs put it down. 13.7, and it's not quick to get away. A problem for Moore. Waiting for the clutch to engage. Crew, 4 men still pushing. Now it grabs hold. Will it? No. He's still got a problem, and they're going to have to back him up now, I believe. Card officials are there pointing him back to the pit box. So this one has turned out to be a double whammy for Greg Moore.
Sounded like he had a problem getting a gear. He couldn't get it into gear.
He continues to blip the throttle as the crew rolls him back. Now the manpower will push him again, and we'll see if they have any better luck. No, it's just not happening.
He can't get in gear. You can hear that grinding.
Yeah, it's a gearbox problem, Danny. It is definitely a gearbox problem, and it may be all over.
He'll go to work with his crew chief, engineer Steve Chalice. No doubt they're talking to each other right now.
Third time now they've shut the engine down. Oh, my.
Just when it looked like they had the strategic advantage that they wanted, it all goes sour for Greg Moore. Twice a winner this year, but it appears his race is over. We'll take a break and return. Michael Andretti, the leader. Dario Franchitti now second.
Welcome back to Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. We ride on board with Bobby Rahal with a little nose cam coming onto the front straightaway. Now Bobby Rahal started 13th. He is currently in 17th. The result of having to make a pit stop after his teammate Brian Herta did a little tap on his rear end. He stopped and had to come into the pits, get it refueled, dropped all the way back. He was last at the restart, and he's worked his way back up to 17th. But remember, Bobby Rahal was the last guy to top off on fuel.
In fact, Danny, I want to point out, he came in a second time. He came in, made his pit stop, went back out, and just before they went green again, he came in, got one more splash of fuel. So he's actually on a slightly different pit sequence than everybody else out here. As a result, somewhere down the line, it may pay off. Then again, it may not. That's the question he's got to answer. Tommy?
Well, we haven't heard anything from Alex Zanardi since he stopped to change that flat spotted tire. But since that time, with the shuffling and pit stops, his window's been extended. There is nothing wrong with his car. His last lap was 1.8 seconds quicker than our leader, Michael Andretti. So whether that stop was any good to do them to eliminate that green flag stop, or they're going to need a splash at the end, Alex Zanardi is absolutely flying. The only guy close in time is Dario Franchitti. The only other guy in the 43s, he's drawn up onto the back of Michael Andretti.
And Tommy, Dario Franchitti is also going a little bit quicker now than Alex Zanardi. He's the only one in the 43s on that last lap.
4 miles around Road America. The cars are required to make a minimum of 1.85 miles per gallon, so you're going through more than 2 gallons per lap. Michael Andretti and Dario Franchitti have now drawn away from the third-place car of Gilles de Ferran. 2.5 seconds back up the road. Adrian Fernandez is fourth. Alex Zanardi just behind him in fifth, about a half second back. And on that last lap, as the cars streak across the timing lights, a whole string of 143s. Here's Fernandez, and Zanardi is now drawn right up behind the Mexican. Coming off a 1-2 finish for Patrick Racing. Adrian Fernandez up ahead as you ride with Alex Zanardi. And Fernandez's teammate Scott Pruitt, the first 1-2 for Patrick Racing since Gordon John Cock and Mario Andretti at the Michigan 500 back in 1982. But Fernandez and Pruitt will not be teammates for much longer. It was announced this weekend Scott Pruitt has signed on to replace Robbie Gordon with Archie Arrow Wells for 1999 and beyond. Through the forest, so reminiscent of classic European road courses, which Alex Zanardi knows well from his years in Formula One.
Keep everybody further updated on the lap speed all the way back to 6th place. We're now running in the 43-second bracket. A lap time of 1 minute 43. Tony Kanaan is in 6th place, doing a tremendous job. Let's not forget, Tony Kanaan on Friday morning had never driven around this track in his life. He didn't know where it went. He only got 9 or 10 laps in practice on Friday because of problems. Qualified well and is now up to 6th place.
Got to point out two things. First off, yesterday he was complimenting Danny Sullivan for giving him tips, but he's also been getting tips from one of his chief mechanics who grew up here at this track, raced karts in Formula Ford. He said he's been teaching him the way around. Imagine that, learning from your chief mechanic.
He said avoid the contour of the road in the carousel and the bump down in turn 5. Let's go down to Gary Gerald.
And alongside Greg Moore. Greg, driveline problems, obviously. We watched you in anguish there try to get it going. But the thing that I can't help but wonder is about this whole championship scenario and the hope that you were keeping alive. And now time's starting to run out. So how do you play it?
Well, I mean, we just got to wait and see what happens in this race today. But, you know, there's still a few more races to go. And I'm not concerned about the championship. All I want to do is win a couple more races. And Mid-Ohio last weekend, we let one slip through our fingers. And I think we had a good plan going into this race, so I'm just real disappointed.
You were the only team that looked like you had a chance to make this a 2-stop day, and that was going to be so big later on, I gathered.
It sure was, and that was our plan. And we knew we'd run out that first tank, and no matter what, yellows or no yellows, and just kind of everything went according to plan. It's just right there at the end, when I tried to leave, race is over.
Thank you.
Tells you everything about his level of frustration. Right now, Adrian Fernandez, green and orange Ducati sponsored Reynard, has mirrors full of Alex Zanardi. Back on board with Bobby Rahal, shown in 17th place. Highest placed of the cars that have made 2 stops thus far. In one of his 2 home tracks, Mid-Ohio, of course, within an hour of Bobby's shops in Hilliard, Ohio. But he says this Road America is the first racetrack he ever saw. He came here as a very young boy to watch his father Mike race sports cars. And he has seen all of the greats. He sits on the board of directors of Road America.
You can see the remnants of that accident. You can see Bobby Rahal's left rear wing plate is broken right there, circled on the telestrator, and it's probably not affecting the handling too much, but it's not as efficient as it could be. He might even be feeling that vibration in the car and not know exactly what it is.
Tommy, the biggest concern in a situation like that is not for the piece, but do the officials think that it would be dangerous and actually black flag him and make him come in and rectify the problem?
Working the throttle through the slow corners and then leaning on it as much as he dares in the fast ones. You ride with Bobby Rahal. We'll be back, approaching the halfway mark.
keep an eye on the leader. Franchetti's right behind him.
Is Ribeiro back in the pits?
I can tell you the story about him. The report we have is that he's in the back of somebody's pickup truck and they're trying to work their way back through the paddock area. But nobody's seen him. Even the team doesn't know where he is.
Well, since they're clearing out, I don't think they're going to bring him to the pit. Yes, sir. Pruitt, you mean? All right. Okay, so you're going to do that first and not Pruitt? Okay. Welcome back to Road America. This Toyota Spotlight concerns Andre Ribeiro. On Friday in qualifying, he hooked the right rear wheel, flew across the racetrack, pounded the left side concrete, and sustained a fracture of his lower left leg. But he felt he could drive. The team went to work, form-fitting a carbon fiber cast to his leg to protect it from further buffeting. He went out to run today here at the Texaco Havoline 200. Picking up the story, Gary Gerald.
Well, Bob, everybody wants to know how it has been going and how much discomfort Andre Ribeiro is in. I say everybody, his fans and his team, but nobody knows exactly where Andre is. We had one report that some Good Samaritan race fans had put him in the back of a pickup truck and were trying to wind their way back up toward the paddock area. But as of yet, nobody's found Andre.
Alex Zanardi heads for the pits from 5th place on lap 26, right at the halfway mark of the race. The very last pit before the pit out.
Here's the answer to our question on what that stop was going to do for Alex. He did not have the luxury of choosing. He had to come in to change that tire. He does not make the magic 33 lap mark, which will allow him to go with one more stop. He is going to have a splash and go at the end.
Tommy, Alex's luck has been so good this year that he might find a yellow someplace in there and be able to stop just at exactly the right time.
Alex Zanardi went 18 laps on that last load of fuel. Now there is Scott Pruitt. This is between turns 2 and 3. He has pulled off with reported engine problems.
The kart officials told us because of the length of this circuit, if you spend too much time under yellow, it's not much of a race. They're going to try to deal with as many of these situations as local yellows that they can. This one, it's hard to get a crane to that, but you do really have to get that car out of the way. So I'm not sure we can do that without a full course caution.
You have to go anywhere with the car once you picked it up. More than 4 miles of new safety debris fencing have been added here at Road America. 5 miles of cement barriers replacing the old Armco guardrail. New grandstands, new gravel traps, such as that one down in turn 14. A $1.7 million facelift as Michael Andretti rockets up the pit lane. He'll have to slow for the chicane.
The speed limit.
Ed Nathman on the radio to Michael. Gary Gerald awaits him.
Pressure on the Newman Haas team. They won the season opener, but it's been tough sledding on many occasions since.
Michael.
The usual admonition to reset the fuel meter. Ed Nathman doing the talking. No changes on the car.
Hold it. Still, go.
Boy, that's a great pit stop. 13.5 seconds, and there's applause from the fans behind the Newman Haas pits.
Michael Andretti went 17 laps on his last load of fuel as Bobby Rahal goes by. Rahal currently shown in 12th with the attrition, including Scott Pruitt and the pit stops. There is Dario Franchitti on the race lead now.
And one thing is for sure, Michael is going to have to make another stop, at least for a splash, to get to the end of this race.
The Hondas have been renowned for their fuel economy this year. None of them more so than the Target Chip Ganassi Racing entries for Jimmy Vasser and Alex Zanardi. We'll see if the Team Gould green machine for Dario Franchitti gets a good long run out of this load of fuel. 4th race this year that Dario Franchitti has led. Still looking for his first career win. Pole in Toronto, pole at Mid-Ohio. But he has yet to score the victory.
Oh, and he dives off up in the pits at the last second.
Well, I guess as so, trimming the grass on the left side. Victor Brule awaits Dario Franchitti.
So does the team, anxiously awaiting. You know, when you talk about all the frustrations this team has been through this year, at this point they all have those fingers crossed. They're coming in trying to get things done as smoothly as possible. This morning they were practicing this. They're actually doing it a little bit different. They've got their guys split because of the type of road course this is. They're getting the full load of fuel. 12.8 seconds, he's out. Meanwhile, Gilles de Ferran right behind him, you see, moving out right behind Dario Franchitti.
The top 4 cars all pitted, and now you see many more coming through. The first 6 cars have pitted. AJ Leto flashing through as Franchitti comes out. And he beats Michael Andretti out, does Dario Franchitti.
You saw how much those cold tires cost Michael Andretti, because he came out right behind Bobby Rahal. Bobby was already up to temperature. Now you're going to see the same thing. Michael's up to speed. All those guys that just came out of the pits will not be. Whether they can get by or not remains to be seen, but they at least have track position.
There is Rahal with Franchitti just behind.
Luckily, Tommy, on this track, you can get the temperature of those tires up pretty fast because of the long straightaways. Don't have to be too heroic through the corners. Get through there nice and safe. And then when you run that car down through the carousel, you really heat up the left side of the car, of those tires, very fast.
Another thing that adds a lot of heat is the real hard braking zone. You get the radiant heat from the brake rotors through the wheel, and that heats the carcass and the air in the tire.
On board now with Richie Hearn in the Budweiser car for Della Penna Racing. Lou the Lizard alongside, as are you, running in 13th place. Let's go around with him, Danny.
We're up there in turn 6, little left-hander now, very quick right-hander here. Drops steeply down the hill, tricky braking here. Most important corner on the track. This little left-hander, you have to come out of here fast, be able to get down through this carousel. Listen, let's listen to the throttle. Okay, I'll pick it up here hard now. Reach down, take the gear, shifts, get down through this kink. Almost flat. I heard a little bit of lift. The fastest point of the track down here under braking into what we call Canada Corner. Tight right-hander with a really neat climb. Right-hander here and a tricky left-hander up here under the bridge.
That's Alex
Send it out wide. Hard on the brakes here. Right-hander out onto the front straightaway over that curve. Now a steep climb right here up in front of the pits. Still climbing. Past the starter stand where we're sitting. Levels out. Now on board Jimmy Vasser, who's looking back at Richie Hearn, who we were just looking forward from his car. Richie closing up there in turn 2. Optical illusion. Jimmy Vasser then accelerates away. Watching at the end of this straightaway under braking. Coming down to you, Tommy.
You see him stay to the left side of the road. That road is heavily crowned, and if you cross that crown, the car will change lanes abruptly. The other thing to look out is you've got the black marks on the track. We're going to go to break and come back after this.
ESPN Speed World coverage of the CART Texaco Havoline 200 is being brought to you by the Firestone Winter Circle Tire Sale at your participating Firestone retailers now. By Ford Motor Company, better ideas driven by you. And on by Brewery Fresh Budweiser, official beer of CART. Hey, race fans, this Bud's for you. Back in the Kettle Moraine region of central Wisconsin, an awesome Road America. Here's a look at our field summary. J.J. Leto just pitted. He'll be going backwards down the running order. Bobby Rahal, the race leader. Dario Franchitti, Gilles de Ferran, and the rest, as you see. Rahal is now making his third stop. And now Dario Franchitti returns to the race lead. Let's take a look at the Toyota Spotlight, dealing with the silly season. Before a packed press room yesterday, the first bombshell was dropped. But more on that, here's Gary Gerald.
Well, you allude to the first bombshell that was dropped in the silly season actual movement. Here's the guy that was responsible for that bomb, Scott Pruitt, who's just made his way back in after motor problems sidelined him. You're going to be running with the Arciero Wells team starting next year. How difficult a decision for you to come to this at this point of the season?
Wow, actually, I'm not even thinking about that. We got a race, whole weekend, and it went, unfortunately, turned bad in the race, and I got hit at the start, and then, kind of got things turned around because we broke the front wing, and unfortunately, the engine broke. So, we got a lot of racing left this year, and we're, working hard for the championship.
It breaks a great string of success, but while that is fact that he won't be with Patrick Racing next year, it opens up a seat for Patrick, and it also opens up a seat wondering what's going to happen to Robbie Gordon. Gordon is going to make a move in another direction for 1999. So let's continue with that theme. Danny?
Well, the guy that's been at the front of the silly season storm, our championship leader, Alex Zanardi. And he's been linked with the Williams Formula One team. But he told me last week at Mid-Ohio that he didn't want to go to Formula One unless it was a very good competitive ride. Now, we've heard from overseas that the Williams team has lost their engine deal for next year, awaiting the BMW engine, and might have to take a secondary motor. That might mean that it's not competitive enough for Alex Zanardi, and he may not be leaving Chip Ganassi. Tommy?
Well, all the F1 speculation is centered around Alex Zanardi. Strangely enough, the guy who might end up in Formula One is Jimmy Vasser. He told me at Indy when we were there for the IROC race, he says, I've got to check out this BAR thing. I owe it to myself. I don't want to get 5 years down the road and say I passed up on a Formula One deal. But on the other hand, he's very happy, had tremendous success at Ganassi Racing. Whoa, you see Jimmy go through the cloud of dirt there. I ran on the trail last night. I was at one of the favorite watering holes, Siepkins, ran into Jimmy's manager. He led me to leave. They were close to a deal with Chip Ganassi, but he is definitely checking out all his options. Rick?
Well, the other big seat available, obviously Bobby Rahal, he is definitely retiring. Word I've got is that there are 5 names on the short list. Originally it was thought they were only going to be Americans, but I've heard that somebody like Heinz-Harald Frentzen is very possibly on that list as well, along with names like P.J. Jones, potentially Richie Hearn. We don't know for sure. But think about this. When was the last time a team owner was able to evaluate the guy he was about to hire on the track, going wheel to wheel? And think about this. If you're going wheel to wheel with Bobby Rahal, you want to see, you do that aggressive move and risk punting him out and then feel his wrath? That's a good thought to think about. Bob?
All right, thanks very much, guys. I've been talking with some of the PR representatives for the team. They said they have never seen the Hot Stove League include the entire field from front to back. That's pretty much the way it's going. Is it all pie in the sky? We'll find out. Time is beginning to run short. On board now with Michael Andretti, shown in 3rd spot. Dario Franchitti leads, Gilles de Ferran second, Andretti third, working lap number 32 of 50. Adrian Fernandez is 4th, Alex Zanardi 5th, Tony Kanaan is 6th, Christian Fittipaldi 7th, then Paul Tracy, Bobby Rahal, Mark Blundell, Jimmy Vasser, Richie Hearn, Arndt Meyer, Max Pappas, and Robbie Gordon runs in 15th. Then Michel Jourdain Jr., J.J. Leto, Walter Salas, and Mauricio Gugelmin. All the cars behind them are now out of the race.
Bob, one of the things that's going on right here, too, we see in our screen Dario Franchitti just behind him, Gilles de Ferran just behind him is Michael Andretti. Everybody stopped a little bit different. Michael was the early stop, made the early stop. Franchitti and Gilles de Ferran on the same stop. They're obviously got a little bit different fuel strategy, but they're all going to have to stop one more time. So I would imagine right now they're not worried about conserving too much fuel. Michael Andretti, of course, has the extra incentive because he's got that Marlboro pole money. If he could win this race, that's $315,000 plus the $100,000 he'd win for winning the race.
He will also win $1 million for a fan in a promotion that his sponsor, Texaco, is running right now. They, of course, are the title sponsors of this Texaco Havoline 200. There's the view from our Honda Helicam as the cars race down through the trees, reminiscent of the Spa-Francorchamps Formula One circuit in Belgium. This could be Spa. Just have to ask the spectator next to you to drink an imported beer rather than a domestic brand.
Here we have the scenario that Rick DeBrule talked about. We have Richie Hearn, one of the guys mentioned as a possible replacement for Bobby Rahal. Does he want to show him how impressive he is, how aggressive he is, or does he want to just stay on his good side? We'll see. I think he's probably going to try to get by him any way he can and worry about the other stuff later.
Tommy, from a driver's point of view, when you're in that car right now, you can't be worrying about the deal for next year. You got to worry about what you're doing right this minute and get the best results you can.
Another thing, this race is very disjointed with all these guys on different strategies. As a driver, when you can keep your eye on everybody that's a contender, you can kind of gauge your pace, etc. Michael Andretti, all these guys, nobody knows what the other guy is doing. It's hard to keep track of all that, much less of yourself. These guys all have to go just flat out, and then hope that when everything shakes out at the end, they're at the front of the heap.
Richie Hearn took a look underneath Bobby Rahal in Canada Corner, couldn't get it done. Using a yoke steering wheel instead of a full circle. Dario Franchitti remains up front. We'll be back to Road America. Here at Road America, Dario Franchitti remains the leader, working lap number 35 with about a 2.5-second lead over Gilles de Ferran. Mauricio Gugelmin is now out of the race with reported brake problems. 10 cars officially are out. 18 of the 28 starters remain in the running. Let's go down to Rick DeBrule in the pit lane.
Standing by was one of the principals who was involved in that what looked to be a very scary action. Unfortunately, everybody's walked away. This is Alex Barron. Let's talk about what sent you into Brian Hurdle.
Well, there's a lot of hard braking going down into the back straight down there. And I got in hard, and then there's a lot of dicing back and forth, and then one of the cars moved over to the right side, knocked me into the grass. I had to steer out in the grass, or else I would have hooked into him, and then once you're in the grass, you're going straight, and then unfortunately Brian was sitting there and climbed up on top of him. It's just real fortunate that he's okay and I'm okay. And
you were talking about what went through your mind as you were literally just hitting him there.
Yeah, it's like slow motion when you're in the car. When you're in the grass like that, you're going pretty fast, but at the same time, it's slow motion. So just real fortunate we got hurt.
Fortunate that he's okay, and also the corner work is okay. All right, Alex Barron, unfortunately, out of the race in a very spectacular way.
The most important thing in that accident was that that car went up and climbed up the nose and got up on top of them. If they had hit nose to nose, which they did, and not given, it could have hurt both of the drivers. That would have been a bad impact at the front of both those cars.
2 weeks, a couple of frightening crashes.
And again, a credit to these champ cars out there, the safety that CART has implemented in the cars. Everybody has walked away unscathed.
Watching the PPG Cup points leader, Alex Zanardi, now riding with him in 4th place. No sign of Michael Andretti up the road. In fact, Alex Zanardi is 6 full seconds behind Michael Andretti. Although he is moving more quickly, he was 1 full second quicker on the last lap. There you see his progress behind the race leader. He's going to have to find some more speed. Been an interesting weekend for Alex Zanardi, an interesting couple of weeks for the points leader. He will leave shortly after this race with his wife Daniela to go back to Italy. She will deliver their first child, said to be a little boy. In the carousel, Bobby Rahal running with Richie Hearn just behind him in 11th and 12th. Back on board with Hearn.
That's a pretty competitive beer wagon right there. We got the Miller Lite and the Bud car.
Slow through Canada Corner. Those dark patches are not actual pavement. It's a sealer put on there to strengthen the pavement to keep it from coming up under the onslaught of the tremendous downforce generated by these 850, 900 horsepower race cars.
And the drivers have said that when those patches go down, they give an incredible amount of grip. So they look for those patches and try to get on them to see if they can get the car to come a little quicker off the corners. On board was Gilles de Ferran. He's heading down toward the carousel. This long right-hander, most important corner right here.
And Danny, de Ferran will be coming into the pits on this lap. His crew is out over the wall, and they're ready to service him for a 3rd, and they hope final time.
That will be at the end of lap 37. With 13 laps remaining, well within the window.
Gary, is this stop, do they need to make it, or are they just deciding because they're inside the stop, they're hoping to get it done, get back out, and maybe a yellow will then launch them right up into the lead?
Well, that's interesting speculation. Didn't get a chance to ask Derek Walker that. Right next door is Dario Franchitti, and Kim Green says they'll probably wait until lap 43 for their final stop.
Here comes Gilles de Ferran, pulling out from behind the lap car of Walter Salas. The mark on the nose from his collision in the very first lap of this race with Scott Pruitt.
Superb work. Just waiting for the fuel.
Fuel is off. Go, go, go. Okay, okay. Go for it.
12.4 seconds. Nice work by Derek Walker's team. But keep in mind now, Franchitti, if he waits another 6 laps, he won't have to take on as much fuel. Could be a faster stop.
No adjustments to the race car for Gilles de Ferran, who comes out just ahead of Mark Blundell. Blundell in 9th place. In fact, Blundell has now moved up to 8th place following de Ferran's stepping out of the line to make his final pit stop. We'll take a break and return. Dario Franchitti leads Michael Andretti. We'll be right back. This Toyota Spotlight focuses on an ownership meeting for Team Rahal at the Ed Sullivan Theater in New York.
You know what you're doing here tonight?
With you?
Yeah.
Well,
don't count on me. What are you doing?
How much do I get paid, by the way?
$200.
Oh, wow. Hey, we can go out for dinner.
And
you know, you gotta do what you gotta do.
This guy likes to get in the shower, and then she runs around the house. There you go. Let's start. Ladies and gentlemen, Bobby Rahal. Come on. All right, get out of here. Who are you guys?
Well, Bobby went to visit co-owner Dave. Dave has returned the favor this weekend. Let's go to Rick DeBrule.
Indeed, David Letterman sitting in the Bobby Rahal pit. I guess the question is, if you had to pay him there, does he have to pay you here?
Bobby doesn't owe me a cent for anything. He's been a great friend of mine, and I'm lucky to be included in a part of his life. So I feel like it's just a very fortunate.
Great year to be involved in this. I guess the question is, what's your recommendation from out there right now in pit strategy?
Yeah, you know, this is the best thing about racing is you just never know, and the worst thing about racing is you just never know. And we've had a little too much of one kind here today.
Truer words were never spoken.
Thanks very much. Good to welcome David Letterman to, I believe, his first race of the year in person, although I can tell you from firsthand experience, he watches every race on the tube. Now, 13 laps ago, Michael Andretti pitted. 12 laps ago, Dario Franchitti, Gilles DeFerrin, Adrian Fernandez, Tony Kanaan, Christian Fittipaldi, Jimmy Vasser, and Mark Blundell pitted. Richie Hearn just dove for the pit lane. Our race recap, Dario Franchitti leading the way. Cars out of the race, and many of them in the very early laps of the event. Of course, Al Unser Jr. and Patrick Carpentier on the very first lap. Shadows growing deep through the trees, headed down to turn 5 as Bobby Rahal negotiates the corner in his last visit to Road America. There's the race leader, Dario Franchitti. Passing the pit entrance.
We talked about the pace earlier, Michael Andretti being the only guy in the 43s and Alex Zanardi at one point. Dario Franchitti is now in the low 42s, so he's out front and streaking away. He figures everyone has a one stop, but as we said, he's not quite sure how long everybody stopped. Are they splashes? Or and Michael Andretti in now for his final stop.
Reset your fuel meter, Michael. Reset your fuel meter. Go, 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 go.
11 seconds flat for Michael Andretti, leaving under the command of his team leader, Ed Nathman. As Blundell comes through, looks like Alex Zanardi making a stop, coming out behind Michael Andretti. Yes, it is Alex Zanardi. So Michael Andretti and Alex Zanardi pitting from second and third places, and Mark Blundell looking for a way by now. Back on board with Gilles DeFerrin now. He began this round of pit stops. Let's get more on that story with Gary Gerald.
Derek Walker is down here, of course, on the radio. Now tell us about your strategy, why you elected to come in before some of those others for your final stop.
Well, we've been running a fair amount of fuel, so we're running pretty hard, so using a lot of fuel. We just needed to get far enough to put in enough fuel to get to the end, and that's really what decided it.
Now, are you concerned that Franchitti and some of the others, by waiting, don't have to take as long as fuel, and that you may lose some of that advantage?
They've kind of stretched the window a little bit, and it's going to be tough to catch them now, yeah.
Can you run 100% full range?
Yeah, we're doing it now.
Okay, there you go. That's the situation here for Gilles DeFerrin.
So now it's back in the hands of the racing driver, Gilles DeFerrin. Paul Tracy also pitted on that same lap with Michael Andretti and Alex Zanardi. There is Dario Franchitti working lap number 42 of 50. Rick DeBrule has more on him.
Well, just time to talk strategy and exactly what's going on with Dario Franchitti. Basically, one of the situations where their plan was to play the tire game more than the fuel game. Their goal is to put the tires on as late as possible, so as they go through the rest of the race, when they get to those last laps, they will have the freshest tires. That's the plan. Whether it plays out or not, we'll have to find out.
Over the rise and into the section of the track known as Hurry Downs. Sharply downhill after this right-hander. Checking lap times. Last time by Dario Franchitti, a 1:43.3. Adrian Fernandez in second place, a 1:44.7. So 1.4 seconds quicker was Franchitti. Christian Fittipaldi in third, however, turned a 1:43.8.
Derek Walker was being a little cagier than he was letting on also. That was, you hear a lot in the NASCAR races about track position. And what Derek Walker was doing there, he came in early. He knew he had to make a stop. He made it on the front end. If there was a yellow between then and when everybody else pitted, he would have shuffled to the front of the line, much like Danny Sullivan said.
Tommy, though, the strategy I like is Dario Franchitti, because he's going to make a stop late, have a quicker stop, less fuel on board, and fresher tires. When that happens, look out, and here he goes right now.
Race leader.
Up into the pit lane.
Race leader is in with 8 laps to go.
By stopping later, watch close to see if they finish the tires before the fuel. You get this close to the end of the race, you have to consider a splash and go. They're still going to put enough fuel in the tires to be done just about the same time as the fuel.
We watch from the back. Ricky Rules front. Everything goes perfect. 10.7 seconds, and he is back out sliding as he goes. But you got to think the team is stoked. This is the position they wanted to be in for so long. So far, they've done everything right. Now, can they capitalize?
Big round of applause from the crowd gathered behind the Team Cool Green pits. Christian Fittipaldi is in from third.
Get ready. Go, 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 go.
Adrian Fernandez, who had taken over the race lead, comes out just ahead of Christian Fittipaldi. And that moves Michael Andretti up the charts once again. Back on board with Michael. 7 laps to go. Next time by, we'll take a break and return with more of the Texaco Havoline 200. Stay with us.
Right. Good job.
We are back at Road America, and as he crossed the line with 7 laps remaining, Gilles de Ferran's engine let go. He is parked just outside victory lane with no chance to get there. His team owner is with Gary Gerald.
Derek, you're talking to your driver. What do you do in this situation? How do you try to console him? How do you console yourself?
You can't really, Gary. I mean, we worked so hard. We're running a great race there. Didn't happen. I mean, what can you do? You just got to go in, try it again.
Boy, one of these weekends, this luck's got to turn around.
Yeah, it's a tough break. The guys really worked hard on this one, but hey, we will be back.
Thank you, Derek.
Thanks.
There's the view of Gilles de Ferran from our Honda Helicam.
Derek Walker is the definition of stiff upper lip. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that same interview. Promising run, only to have something happen. He has a tremendous attitude. I guess there's not much else he can do, but it's hard to hide that disappointment.
Several times now the engine has let go in the back of Gilles de Ferran's race car. Derek Walker will take the gamble if it means the chance of winning a race. just has not paid off for them this year. Dario Franchitti, the race leader. Michael Andretti, 10.8 seconds behind in second. Alex Zanardi runs third, just 1 second behind Michael. Although Michael had the faster lap last time by 1.3 seconds. On board with Zanardi now. Once again, Alex Zanardi has sneaked his way through the field, and once again is in position for a podium.
Well, let's analyze this a little bit. Alex Zanardi did a very good job. He had to make that early pit stop, and then he had a couple of yellows. But he had made his pit stop, so he moved up track position just because of the yellow situation. Admittedly, he's been driving very hard and very fast, but those early pit stops helped him, and those early yellows helped him.
The first yellow helped a lot. That closed that whole gap he lost on that early pit stop. But then from then on, he was a little bit out of sequence. But we chronicled how quickly he was running in the middle part of the races. And he's been on a clean track just about the whole time. Came out of the pit stop. Both had great pit stops last time. And was able to, since that time has been able to sneak back up within about a second of Michael Andretti. Michael has since answered with a string of very fast laps and stretched back out of here.
Now they are running just a few car lengths apart.
Let's not forget one other thing. He's the reigning champion. There's a reason that he is that. And so is Target Chip Ganassi. They won 2 in a row. That team knows how to do it. They play the strategy very well. They work hard at it. And they manipulate the system as good as anybody.
Well, that's exactly the point. I mean, Alex Zanardi recently has come under fire for aggressive driving. But it is aggressive driving and taking advantage of all those opportunities that has allowed him to do what I perhaps facetiously call sneaking up through the field recently. Zanardi is always there, and when he sees the door open, he is in there. And the team has done a great job for him. The cars appear to be bulletproof. We don't often hear about either Jimmy Vasser or Alex Zanardi dropping out of a race.
We didn't hear a lot from him throughout the weekend. They had a great test here and came back and have been scratching their heads. They've been on the low downforce trail like everybody else. But Jimmy Vasser told me it was as simple as tire pressures. All they're chasing, they've chased down to just having the tire pressures and getting a handle on that. And all of a sudden, when the race comes around, true to form, they're in the hunt.
Zanardi continues to hound Michael Andretti. We're going to take a break, come back, and take you all the way to the checkered flag with 5 laps remaining here at Road America. Spotlight focuses on the man of the race thus far, the points leader, Alex Zanardi. In the hustle and bustle of the opening laps of this race, Zanardi, trying to work his way up forward, found himself behind Alonso Jr., and when the field accordioned to a close, he punted Jr. out of the race. But as so often happens with Zanardi, his car was undamaged. He dropped back to 24th place on laps 8 and 9 when he had to pit to replace a flat-spotted tire. but with his usual magic, Alex Zanardi has soldiered his way through the field and currently runs in third place. He was a lot closer to Michael Andretti a few corners ago. Danny Sullivan, what's your name again?
Yeah, that's okay. Right there at turn 5, right in front of Tommy. Alex tried to close up under Michael under braking. Got it in a little bit too hot. Got it sideways, almost went off. Saved it, lost some ground, but he's going to try to close back up. He's running in the 1:42-second bracket.
It's an interesting accordion. They're quicker on different parts of the track. Alex is just killer under braking into turn 5. Same sort of thing kind of you saw with Brian Herta and Bobby Rahal, where almost got in the back of Michael Andretti. You get to the fast section of the course, and Michael Andretti just checks out. So that's going to be an interesting battle to watch. You have to wonder, though, is it going to be neutralized after the fact by the chief steward? Alex on probation, hit with a big fine last week. Very clearly, at least, if not wholly responsible, largely responsible for Allenser Jr.'s demise.
Tommy, I had a conversation with Zanardi prior to the start of this race, and he expressed his one concern was straightaway speed, and he was really afraid that he wasn't going to have enough to offer Michael Andretti and the other top contenders. That seems to be bearing out, despite the fact he's made this amazing run from 24th back up to 3rd.
Behind Michael Andretti is Alex Zanardi. Behind Zanardi is this man, Michael's Newman Haas teammate, Christian Fittipaldi, running in 4th place, about 23 seconds behind Alex Zanardi. And he, too, has had a great run here today.
Christian's had such a tough season, even after his leg-breaking accident last year in Australia. He's really struggled. He's come back. He's put in some good performances, but has not gotten the results. He's doing a great job here today.
Behind Fittipaldi, Tony Kanaan, the rookie points leader, runs in 5th place with the opportunity to open up a big gap over his nearest rival for the Jim Truman Award, signifying Rookie of the Year. Kanaan has had an off today as well, but he got right back on. He runs in the 5th spot as you ride with Christian.
Whispers for a number of races now that Christian Fittipaldi, you hear he's in, he's out, he's in, he's out. Now that the first chip has fallen, who knows?
Silly season is just heating up. Let's go down to the Team Cool Green pits and Rick DeBrule.
I think the word pins and needles is probably the best word that could be used to describe the situation down here. Everybody watching the monitors, very antsy. Kim Green, it's a stupid question sometimes, but this time it really applies. What's going through your mind right now?
Well, you know, obviously we've been in this position a couple of times this year already, so, you know, we'd like to get this one over and done with. Dario's driven a fantastic race. The crew's done fabulous pit stops. We've just got 2 more laps to go, or 1.5 more laps to go, and we can, you know, celebrate, I think, what we richly deserve, a win.
He hasn't said much on the radio, so you really don't know what's going through that young Scott's mind.
He's a non-talker on the radio, likes to concentrate on what he's doing, and hopefully we can finish the job off in the next lap or so.
I guarantee you there's a lot of fingers, a lot of toes, everything is crossed in the Team Cool pit.
Well, you can tell it on the time clock, too. Dario Franchitti's running about 2 seconds a lap slower than Michael Andretti and Alex Zanardi, who, of course, are in a heated battle. But he's got a cushion. He's going to drive conservatively. He needs that 1 more lap, and 1 more lap in a little bit for his first victory.
He'll be facing the white flag this time by, not since the Cleveland race in 1995, when Jacques Villeneuve, currently the Formula One World Driving Champion, took Barry Green's team to victory lane. Has another Team Cool Green driver done it? Right now, this man, Dario Franchitti, has a chance. Now, over the rise come Michael Andretti and Alex Zanardi with 4 miles to go to try to catch Franchitti.
Franchitti turned up the wick a little bit that lap. He was only a second off Michael, but Alex Zanardi was almost 2 seconds quicker than Franchitti and a second quicker than Michael Andretti. He's trying to force this issue and get up and see if they can make something happen on this last lap. Remember, it's 4 miles around.
Michael Andretti, huge tire failure, 5th gear, into the braking zone.
And into the tire wall.
Michael had you hear that?
Yes, we did.
Michael just said, just exactly, top of 6th gear, tire blew, coming down shredded. He hit the right side wall, and now he's in the tires. Obviously, you hear him talking, he's okay, but 2.5 miles to go for a 2nd place podium finish. Right rear tire.
How many times have we seen that on the last lap here at Road America? Alonso Jr.'s engine letting go back in 1996. Michael Andretti was the beneficiary of that incident.
And Michael's had 2 tires let go this year, one for when he was leading a race and now in second place. The person who's going to benefit from this the most is, of course, Christian Fittipaldi, his teammate. Nothing happens there. Will elevate him up to 3rd place and a podium finish.
Alex Zanardi moves to 2nd, barring any possible action by the officials after this race. But right now, it's all about this man, Dario Franchitti, who takes the checkered flag in 1st place for the first time in his kart career. And a day that began with so much promise for Goodyear and for Ford ends with a Honda Firestone car in victory lane. First career victory. Dario Franchitti, the 4th driver to earn his first career win here at Road America. And for Michael Andretti, the day went bust along with his tire. Stay with us. Back at Road America, there is the wreckage of Michael Andretti's car, which crashed out of 2nd place. Danny Sullivan.
Well, you can see right here this big, sorry, I'll correct that. We're going down the back straightaway here. 6th gear, about 190. Listen, boom, blown tire. Michael tries to control it, takes a big wallop in the wall, gets down in here, hits the tires. He blew a left rear tire on the last lap while running in 2nd position.
Meanwhile, Dario Franchitti continues his victory lap, the longest lap you will ever find. 4 miles around Road America. We'll take a break and see how much closer he is when we're back.
One of the things you love about this moment is that there's always so much pure emotion in victory lane, and such a deserved man, so many people offering congratulations. Is there a great sense of relief, Dario, to get this first one?
I think you better ask the guys. I'm not sure what I'm feeling at the moment. I'm ecstatic. It's been a long time coming. We've been in the position a lot of times. Always something's got in our way. This is it. Nobody can take it away from us. We beat everybody on the track today. My guys were fantastic. You know, everything just worked absolutely perfectly.
Were you at all surprised when Gilles de Ferran, who was battling with you, elected to make his final pit stop about 5-6 laps sooner than you were coming in?
I was trying to concentrate on what I was doing. I just knew that when Gilles came in, I had to go as fast as I possibly could to try and stretch the gap. Terrific. I mean, everybody in the pit lane's been so superb. They've all been wishing me well. All the other teams before the race, all the guys, all the drivers were coming past and waving. It's a special feeling, and I'd like to say hi to everybody at home, and I'll see them all tomorrow, and it's superb.
Savor the moment, and what a contrast from just a month ago at Toronto. Great job.
Thank you.